Everyone, welcome back to OnBase. I am your host, Chris Moody, and today I'm very excited to have Max Greenwald with us to talk about rethinking Outbound. Max, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Super happy to be here, Chris.
Awesome. I almost said Maximus, and then that would trigger Minimus. So we may have to get there about how there are two different folks that I'm seeing on LinkedIn. But the first question we love to start with is for you to tell everyone a little bit about your journey and what led you to what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So disclaimer here, I'm on a marketing podcast and I am not a marketer. I started my career in kind of engineering and product. I was a computer science major, went to Google, worked on Google Maps, total nerd, and just wanted to kind of try something different than big tech. And so I started a company. But big disclaimer that I always tell folks is don't run away from something, run towards something. And when I started my company, I was running away from Google and not running toward anything in particular. And that's kind of a blessing in disguise too, because it led to me getting interested in and being a part of the sales and marketing world. And so I was never going to leave Google to run toward being a salesperson. But then when I figured out and found out how difficult it was to sell, and basically how like 4 of our first pivots just totally flopped and I couldn't sell a dime in B2B SaaS, I was like, man, maybe there's a better way to apply kind of more product and engineering mindset to sales and marketing. And so over the last 5 years, I've totally fallen in love with what it means to be a seller, what it means to be a marketer. And I'm a real student at heart, and I'm here to learn about, sales and marketing. And we've now built Warmly.ai, which is a sort of automated outbound platform powered in part by Demandbase's awesome intent data. And we're, crossing 3 million in ARR, hundreds of customers. Every day I'm speaking to CMOs, and it's been a hell of a journey.
That's awesome. I have to ask, you said Google Maps. Google Maps or Waze? I know they're all the same company. Which are you using on your phone?
So it's a good question. So Google Maps bought Waze for $1 billion. The front ends, or actually they were separate products for like 3 or 4 years. Around 2020, they merged back ends, which means they were the same data, but they had different sort of visuals. And then in the last couple of years, they've actually taken the best features of each and added them to each other. And the only remaining difference between Waze and Google Maps is that Waze is tuned to be more aggressive in its routing, to take you on more stranger back road paths and more windy routes. And Google's more like, we'll keep you on the highway. And what's interesting is ETAs, so how fast you get somewhere, is actually pretty much the same between Waze and Google. It's just that half of drivers want to feel like they're moving, and so they'd rather take back roads and feel like they're always driving somewhere, and half of drivers are fine to be stuck in traffic, but you kind of get there at the same time. So I actually think that question is cool because it's sort of like a personality question, and so I'll put it back on you, Chris, which is, are you more of a Waze person or more of a Google Maps person?
I'm Waze. I am Waze, but I am also Android and have a Google device. So a lot of times when I'm using Gemini or something, it automatically wants to pull up Google Maps. So I go back and forth, but most of the time I'm pulling up Waze with Android Auto in my car.
Very cool. And actually, while I was there, I was working on mapping data to sell to car companies and driving sort of like ride-sharing companies. So Lyft, Android Auto, all that kind of stuff. It was a fascinating time. But yeah, that was a former product and engineering life for me.
Awesome. All right, cool. Let's jump into it. I think that is a good personality test. Maybe we need a survey question on LinkedIn in the future. Yep. But what do you think's driving the urgency for businesses to rethink how they approach outbound and lead scoring today?
Yeah. So a couple of big things are broken in marketing that I think have just changed due to AI and how crowded things have gotten since things like Sales Loft and Outreach have started firing off the spam cannon of emails. First thing that's deeply broken is the belief that inbound and outbound need to be separate. So for the longest time, marketing led inbound and then sales led outbound. And now that we're sort of seeing a unification of the go-to-market team, the rise of RevOps, demand gen, the go-to-market engineer, the kind of realization that your outbound should actually be driving leads to your website, which come inbound. And then, of course, the attribution wars between who makes money between the SDR team and the marketing team for who drove what when. It's all kind of coming to this fantastic blend, and we call it Warmbound here at Warmly, which is that basically you should have a single marketing team focused on pipeline. Basically, they should own the SDR team, and they should run all outbound through their team. Therefore, they can sort of not need to place unnecessary money and attribution toward outbound versus inbound, but they can kind of collapse those two. So kind of first thing that's broken with marketing that needs to get fixed is we need to stop thinking about outbound versus inbound. Sort of second thing that needs to get fixed with marketing is that I think TAM and lead scoring is fundamentally broken. And that's because we're overly reliant on these filters. And everyone's heard them, my target demographic is companies size 1 to 500, revenue size 10 million to 100 million, and I'm looking for sales titles. And so you take these big B2B contact databases and you filter for these things, but we've run an analysis and basically all of these companies are relying on, and I think, I wonder if Demandbase is doing this too, but certainly many of the data providers that I know are doing this. They're relying on these attributes that Clearbit, which is one of the first in the space, set this up like 10 years ago. And it's so broken. Like basically the filters that you put, it excludes 40% of the companies that should be in your ICP, and it includes 25% of the companies that should not be in your ICP. And so like classic filtering is just wrong. And with the rise of AI, we actually have a new way to look at and do lead scoring and filtering of data instead of relying on classic Firmo and technographic information that we've done for the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, two big things broken. We got our outbound versus inbound, and we have our like lead scoring that I think need to get fixed in marketing.
All right. I love it. Let's pull on the filtering thread a little bit.
Yep.
Tons of data available. How are you working to separate noise from the truly actionable buying signals? And what signals do you think matter the most?
Yeah. So within the general concept of what makes for a warm lead, I mean, we're called Warmly, we're all about warm leads. We think about sort of two different things. We think about what I call historical signals, which are techno-firmographic information, deal information of like how often you've contacted them in the past. Are there people at that company who, like buying software similar to yours? Are they hiring? Whatever, like the classic kind of like filters. And then separately, you have intent signals, which are first, second, and third party intent that, of course, Demandbase is really attuned with. And I think any good demand gen leader today should be thinking about how they're leveraging first, second, and third party intent. We can get into what those things are too, but assuming that folks are familiar with that as a base, you have your first, second, and third party intent, and then you have your sort of techno-firmographic information coming from what I'd call like historical intent, because you combine it with CRM data. And those are the components that would make up what might be a hot lead or a warm lead. And I think then for each individual company, you have to, and ideally use AI for this, to figure out what is a hot lead for me. And I don't think it's as simple as, oh, we sell to finance people and, oh, looks like someone came by our website from this company. And then you're like, great, that's good. I think actually like it's a little more complicated. And I think that a smart sales and marketing leader will think about how to layer in all these things. We call it signal stacking at Warmly. So it's like leveraging first, second, third party historical intent CRM data and basically trying to assign weights to each of these things as to what is most successful at driving good close one revenue. And some of the best leaders that I've seen are actually taking their close one data and running deal analysis on what were all the breadcrumbs of information that led to this company going close one. So for example, you might learn that 6 months before most of your happiest customers signed, there was, an earnings report that notified, that was up 10%. Then 3 months beforehand, at least three people in the buying committee came by the website. And then 1 month beforehand, they were on G2 Crowd looking up, who might be the best people to go after. And then 15 days before, you get a buying intent signal from Bombora's third-party research intent saying they were searching, top 10 best finance tools out there. So basically what I'm telling you is sort of this breadcrumb journey to closed one, taking that analysis and then running AI across it ideally, but just you can do an analysis yourself if you need, and then figuring out, okay, based on these breadcrumbs, this is the classic behavior that leads to a closed one deal. That is what makes for a hot or a warm lead for us.
Cool. I love that. I want to pull on a couple threads again. AI, and you mentioned Warmbound. So I was going to say outbound sales, but we'll say Warmbound. So AI is transforming a lot of what we do in sales. So we'll call it Warmbound sales instead of outbound. but where does AI fall short compared to human-led approaches?
Yeah, and we can talk about this both in sales and marketing because I have hot takes for both. But in my opinion, AI falls very short in the sales world, specifically at anything that happens after the meeting is booked. And basically, I think there's a lot of great top of funnel AI hacks and tricks for mass personalization at scale and maybe some human in the loop stuff, but content generation, fine. But when I get on the call with a prospect, at the end of the day, it is my smiley face and my, goofy little, eyebrows and my like funny quips and puns that is going to convince this person to buy. And it may sound weird, but I think about it kind of like caveman stuff, which is like back in the day, you ran away from saber-toothed tigers because they bit you, and you gave a big old hug and started a tribe with a fellow human because they looked, walked, and acted like you. And if I were to ever get on a buying cycle for a tool and there's some AI avatar being like, hello, let me show you a demo of my software, I would run for the hills, and I just don't think it would work. Even though humans can lie and steal and whatever, it's like at the end of the day, a human connection is going to be the feeling, especially in B2B, and especially for, let's say, ACV sizes north of 25K. You need a human on the line to be there for you, to help you when things get frustrating. Maybe it's a different story for like $99 a month, face auto-tune software or something. But I think generally for B2B medium plus ACV, you're going to need a human. So yeah, I draw the line at the meeting book.
Cool. I like that approach too. I mean, I don't think humans are going away. We need to understand it, and you were hitting on that too. We need to use it where we can, but it's still going to need that personal touch. Let's dive into lead scoring. I think many have assumed over the years that they've conquered lead scoring and that they're great at it. And this is kind of a cycle that I've seen in MarTech where we go on to the next thing, chase that shiny object, pretend that we've completely figured something out. But conversion rates haven't changed a ton over the years. If we look at lead conversion and the pure kind of demand gen funnel, what do you think's missing there?
Coming from my perspective, where I've only been in the sales and marketing space for like 5 years, I probably haven't seen the cycle of like lead scoring being done and dusted. I've sort of always considered it to be wrong and broken. But of course, maybe I'm biased. I guess in the age of AI, we need to question everything. And that means questioning our tools, questioning our people, questioning our efficiency, questioning how people, process, and tools all blend together. And when I talk to CMOs that are heading into the boardroom, every quarter, what are they being asked by their board members? They're being asked, how are you putting AI into your organization? How is your efficiency? And why isn't pipeline being able to grow? And I think at the end of the day, like if you're not turning over every stone, if you're like, oh yeah, our lead scoring model, that's fine, we don't need to like look at that, I think that you're wrong. And it's kind of like how I use ChatGPT every single day to help me write emails. That thing didn't exist 2 years ago. I asked sort of the same question about lead scoring, which is like, you created your lead scoring in an age where you had to sort of assign manual weights. They wouldn't change on the fly. Maybe it was like done on a quarterly basis. Maybe it was account-based instead of person-based. And just things are different now. So taking a look under the hood, I think is good.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really good approach too, because it was a lot of manual levers. I think many of us remember. So you mentioned 5 years, but I remember spreadsheets where it was, let's give them 5 points for getting this ebook. And, 10 points. They attended a webinar, right? So we've all lived through that. How should sales teams apply TAM, SAM, SOM, and some of the other acronyms that you can help us to define? But how should sales teams apply those in practice to improve targeting and avoid wasted effort?
Yeah, well, let's start from the basics here, which is defining TAM, SAM, and SOM. Maybe Chris, you take 2 and I'll take 1, but how would you define TAM?
Yeah, well, I mean, pure acronym, and I'll take 1, you take 2. Well, I don't like hearing myself talk. I mean, total addressable market, right? So I think the classic understanding of total addressable market, people would say, who are all the people who could potentially buy from us? And that could be loosey-goosey criteria. We don't really know if it's actually true or not. We may source that from someone and pay them a lot of money to really understand our TAM based on what new product we're going to do. But it's the highest number we could possibly get to if we sold to everyone.
Yep. Well, I'll take the next one. Let's go with SAM, and then we'll go with SOM. Now, SAM stands for Serviceable Addressable Market. So of all the people we could possibly sell to, this is where I bring in that first layer of what I think makes a hot or warm lead, which is the historical signals. This is your CRM data and your firmware and technographic information, which is basically saying, for our company, who are the people we sold to in the past? What do they look like? And what tend to be the shape of a company that makes the most sense for us? We don't know if they want to buy right now. It's just like, this is the kind of company that we see around. And so that's sort of like taking this, here's everybody, to more like, here's everybody who looks like a good fit for us based on the stuff that we sell. Then finally, you get down to SOM, Serviceable Obtainable Market. Obtainable means, who can I get right now? Or maybe to keep it easy, we can say, who can I get in the next couple quarters or this calendar year? And the obtainable market is where you have to bring in intent data, which sort of that second piece of what I consider to be a hot lead, which is the sort of who is exhibiting signals. And there's many different kinds of signals that we can get into that would put them in the serviceable, obtainable market, but who sort of looks like companies we like and actually is obtainable because they're in market, because they're exhibiting intent, because there must be some sort of problem driver or, revenue miss that they're going for that lends themselves to be searching for something that I sell, whether it's a service or a software. But here's the key thing that I think a lot of people get wrong, is that when you look at a classic funnel, right, you go TAM, SAM, SOM, you think, well, you're in my TAM, then you move into my SAM, and then you move into my SOM, and you're stuck there. Or like a regular, like lead scoring model or like a regular funnel in marketing is like, you're a cold lead, you're an MQL, then you're an SQL, and then you're, whatever. But it sort of presupposes that you can never, you're basically, there's one directional, right? It's like you start at the top and you get to the bottom, and it's like just one track minded. I think that's wrong. And I think that we actually need to think temporally, which is basically that like you can only be in the SOM, the serviceable addressable market, a serviceable obtainable market, for at most 60 days. And so in my head, and it depends on what signal they're exhibiting, but if you come by my website, that's awesome. You're only heating up for 60 days. And honestly, a lot of companies don't even consider a website visit to be good enough to be obtainable. Maybe they have to see 3 ads, come to the website, and like respond to a gift card ad to get some sort of like, content piece. So that's interesting to me, which is like your SOM is constantly changing and evolving, and companies are popping off of your SOM and maybe going into close one, ideally, or they're popping back into your SAM, which is that they're just not ready to be in SOM any longer. And I think that our systems traditionally have not been set up to be able to accommodate for this movement back upwards in the journey, as well as the kind of like constantly dynamically evolving nature. So yeah, I think that sort of helps us define TAM, SAM, and SOM, and sort of a little bit of my opinion on how we need to shift that up to be a bit more dynamic.
Yeah, a little more dynamic. Again, I'm pulling on threads here. I need to stop saying that. That's going to be a comment. Everyone's like, stop pulling on threads. But the dynamic piece, right? If we think about AI and how it can help with prospecting, if we want to fully scale things and think about prospecting and the potential fluidity that could happen between SAM and SOM, as you were just describing, what do you think is the biggest challenge in getting AI to help us prospect at scale?
Well, I think and again, I'm speaking like now, this was March of 25. Things look different a year ago. I think AI sucked at prospecting a year ago, but that's the kind of fun part about AI is like it's getting better and better. I use Perplexity for my ABM motion to actually research particular accounts, and it does like pretty good deep research that shows me all the pieces that would, give the basis for what my outreach would look like. So from a prospecting perspective, looking at a single account, I think AI is doing pretty good. One of the things that to be careful of, though, is the AI is trained on classic approaches to outreach for a company, right? So it's easy to be like, write me an email that, is most appealing to this company. But one of the biggest theories in marketing, called the purple cow by Seth Godin, is basically like you have to be different from everybody else. You can't just be a regular cow, you have to be a purple cow. And why do I want a purple cow? It sounds gross. Maybe the meat tastes bad. The milk probably tastes horrible. I don't know. It's purple. It's different. I like that. And then I'm choosing between not 100 cows where maybe you get picked, but it's like I have the purple cow and then I have 99 other regular cows. And so you're like, okay, 50-50 chance. Similarly, if all your emails are written by AI, and again, the prospecting is getting pretty good, but if all your emails are written by AI and I get 100 emails and they're all written by AI, sure, they're all personalized and they all mention, hey, Max, like we saw you play rugby, like my cousin played rugby, like nice, man, like good for your cousin. Then all of a sudden you're not standing out anymore. And that's where it's getting kind of tricky because it's almost like AI was bad at prospecting. I think it's actually pretty good at prospecting, but our goal isn't for in an individual email for AI to be good at prospecting one account. Our goal is to get close one revenue. And if the goalposts are moving as to what closes revenue, and that goalpost is adding a human touch or a human flavor or being weird or standing out to actually get the meeting, then actually, I guess AI is not good at prospecting? Question mark.
I like the question mark there. That's good. That plays really well for the podcasting, I guess. Yeah, right. Nice use of inflection there. So, okay, Warmbound sales. The future casting here. Let's look ahead and think about Warmbound sales and lead scoring and how you think they will evolve. And I'd love to know what you think will be the separating line between the winners and the laggards who aren't keeping up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to start with like structure of like marketing orgs. The first thing that I want to call out is I think marketers deserve and should own all of pipeline. That is what Warmbound means. That's the combination and the incentive alignment to not worry about who gets attribution and to focus less on, I guess, attribution and more on like getting attention of the market, whatever the means are, especially because now it's pretty easy to go omni-channel and hit up prospects across a lot of different areas. The second piece of structure that I think the winners of marketing teams are going to look like is I think that marketers are incorrectly positioned as vertical marketers, and I think they need to be positioned as horizontal marketers. What I mean by that is you hire your SEO marketer, your ad marketer, your email marketer, your LinkedIn marketer, and you think to yourself, okay, cool, they're specialized and they're very good at that one channel. But I think that's broken because one, there's sort of annoying attribution alignment problems that come up. But also, I think that the way that a buyer buys is not, hopefully I get targeted on LinkedIn today. It's like, no, I have a problem and I'm either in the awareness stage and I'm a cold lead, I'm in the like problem understanding stage and I'm a warm lead, or I'm in the solution stage and I'm a hot lead. And so I think actually the best marketing teams that are going to win are going to scratch vertical marketing and they're going to move toward horizontal marketing. And you're going to see the cold marketer, the warm marketer, and the hot marketer. The hot marketer sounds pretty good. I'll take the hot marketer. It sounds great for me. But really it's like, you basically have your brand marketers kind of at the top of funnel awareness stage. You'll have your kind of like go-to-market engineers at the kind of middle warm stage where you're doing automated campaigns at scale using AI. Maybe you're using some SDR. And then kind of bottom of funnel, I think it's a marketing person, but I'll call it the SDR manager, which is like you basically are commanding your humans, which is like we have the hottest leads. We're gonna show up at events. We're gonna do chatbot on the website where we actually chat with folks. And so basically the kind of the solve there for marketing teams that are going to win are going to be the ones that break free of vertical marketing and move to horizontal marketing. So again, sort of to summarize the sort of two things that I think the winners in marketing are going to do. Step one, marketing will own all the pipeline. Step two, marketing will be horizontal as an org structure instead of vertical. And then I think where does that lead from there? I actually think we're going to see the rise of the extremely highly comped marketer that is almost like an enterprise seller. And I think if you're driving all of pipeline, then you should be comped based on goals related to pipeline and probably some incentive on close won deals. But you have your enterprise AE, right? That is like typically your most expensive person in the organization. They make more than the VP of sales. At least, most companies that do it. I don't know about Demandbase, but you have your enterprise AE. They got $1 million quota and they're making, 150 base, 300 OTE. They're basically taking a huge risk, but they're putting the bag on themselves, which is they're saying, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to work really hard, bring revenue to the company. Good for me. I think the marketers are going to do the same, which is saying, I want a huge freaking pipeline goal. Don't comp me, traditional marketing plans I've seen, and you can correct me if you think it's differently, but like are more like 80 base, 20% OTE, or 20%, commission. I think it should be moved more like 50-50. And I think we should be giving marketers the ability to take big swings, have these like highly comped IC mega marketers, just like enterprise sellers. And I think that will actually drive incentive alignment. after we break free of the sort of vertical marketing and move toward horizontal marketing. And finally, now you have a marketing org that I think is well primed for the AI age that can really start to rethink how they're doing TAM analysis and lead scoring, and then Warmbound in a way that will actually generate good qualified pipeline.
That's a really cool one. As a marketer who has almost jumped to sales a couple of times in my career, I had our top distributor when I was in a medical device company recruit me to come in and join sales. The biggest fear for me was carrying a bag and going from the healthy base to the perceived risk of, oh, geez, if I don't make it. I think whoever figures out that gradual step lever of starting to unlock some of that comfort level with the right types of marketers, that could be cool.
Totally. But like, think about your typical brand marketer. Like, you know, when the CRO says I'm paying out commission, the brand marketer's like, I drove a lot of pipeline. The CRO's like, prove it. And they're like, well, you know, I ran these campaigns and some people clicked and I think that led to the book meeting. And it's hard to drive that attribution. And so I get why earlier on in the funnel, you're scared of the sort of carrying the bag because you're not really totally tied toward being able to carry that full bag. But what I love about the rise of the go-to-market engineer role is you have these like confident hustler people who are able to totally within their own control command a fleet, an army of email accounts and an army or a fleet of LinkedIn accounts and run tons of AI generated ads and basically be able to say, I live and die, you know, based on my ability to like create good pipeline. And it's interesting. It's just like, it's different than your classic marketing persona. And I am curious to watch marketers as they evolve in their careers to see where they go and where they head, and if they sort of see themselves evolving into roles like that.
Awesome. Love it. As a founder, right, how do you pressure test big strategic bets before you commit to them?
Good question. So I actually tell my team we're basically running 75% of our experiments are going to be iterative improvements. And we're late stage Series A. And so I think it could be different if you're a seed stage founder or you got 1 month of runway and you got to swing for the fences. But typically I say 75% of our efforts need to be experiments that have iterative improvement, 3 to 5% increase on whatever project we're doing, or at least a hypothesis of increase. And then 25% of what we're doing are huge, excuse my French, effing bets that are like, you know, going to basically 10x the business, but usually will fail entirely. An example of that would be, you know, we're debating right now whether or not we should start some sort of, we're moving up market a little bit as a business. We're, you know, now serving companies that are, you know, more like size 250 to 500. And so we want to be a little more, I guess, serious and targeted toward reaching out and connecting with CMOs who are buying, you know, real best in breed type tools like Demandbase, and want to partner with an add-on like Warmly. And as we do that, we're thinking a lot about sort of creating deep researched content backed by statistics. And so putting $250K, for example, toward, you know, a researcher, toward running, you know, mass surveys of marketers and salespeople around what's working and what isn't, and then running analysis on our own customer data, fully anonymized, of course, and aggregated to be able to pull out insights, and then creating these reports, you know, your classic, like, you know, Demandbase State of the Marketing Union 2025 type vibes. That is a big bet for us. I mean, that could totally fail. It's a big investment, but I think it's one probably worth taking. And so that's an example of one of the big bets that we're considering. Whereas an alternative one would be like a micro play with B2B gifting, where we're going to be sending 50 decision makers a bottle of champagne and seeing if they'll respond to us. You know, that's sort of like a 3 to 5% improvement type play that we're doing. So yeah, that's kind of my philosophy as a founder that I try to put onto the team. One of the interesting things actually is my marketers are incredibly good at hypothesis-driven experimentation. My salespeople are not. They are not really thinking in terms of hypotheses. They're sort of much more like, I do a thing, I close the deal or I don't. If I hit the number, I make money. If I don't, then I don't. And it's just interesting to me that the marketing is more A/B test-driven and sellers are a little more gut-driven. Not a bad or a good thing.
No, I think that's a cool observation. And when you're ready with the research, come back on. We'll do another episode and talk about it. I'm a geek for that. I think that would be a very smart gamble for whatever you're spending on that. We're going to shift into, yeah. Hey, look, there's not a definitive benchmark in our space right now, I don't think. So there's an opportunity there. So we can talk about that. We're going to shift into the lightning round. I know we're coming up on time. You
Great.
may have a birthday pretty soon. So the first question, what is the biggest challenge in B2B marketing?
The biggest challenge in B2B marketing is how to arrange your people, your process, and your AI and orchestrate an effective go-to-market motion that drives clear, measurable increase in pipeline.
Nailed it. All right. Tech Rex, what standout technology are you using? You've mentioned a few already today.
Yeah. So my sales team just purchased a tool called Outbound. It's a sales copywriting tool specifically tuned to sales personas and sales buyers. What I like about it is you can upload a bunch of content, and you can also upload recordings of closed won deals, and they can pull out what phrases were successful in driving closed won deals, and then use that to personalize your emails directly with an Outreach or Sales Loft. So that's a piece of tech that I think is really great. And then maybe a sort of second one that I'd like to plug is default.com. They're our inbound lead routing and scheduling engine. They're, I would say, like a more affordable version of Chili Piper. And we really like partnering with them because our AI chatbot powered by Demandbase drives intent-based sales conversations, but at the point at which you want to actually schedule a meeting and you want to basically like choose between 4 or 5 different times, Default partners with us to take over.
Sweet. All right. The next one we call Goodreads. It's a little misleading though. Book, blogs, newsletter, podcasts. What stands out to you? What are your favorites?
30 Minutes to President's Club on the sales side is one of my favorite kind of podcasts to listen to. The recent episode with Eleanor Dorfman, who ran head of sales at Retool for 4 years. Excellent stuff on basically what words and phrases to ban on your sales reps' calls. Now that we do recording and AI generation, she actually, one tip, for example, which I think was genius, was bans her reps from saying their company name on the call, making it less about me, and more about you, the prospect. And so anytime somebody said the word Retool, she'd get flagged because they AI recorded the call and basically be able to kind of slap the rep on the wrist and be like, you need to be asking about their problems. So 30 Minutes President's Club, I think, is great. HubSpot put out a report recently, HubSpot State of Marketing 2025, that I find pretty fascinating, all about how they're putting AI across all their marketing suite and what the implications are. And then lastly, LinkedIn. I go to LinkedIn. I follow a couple of great influencers that I think are awesome. Some up-and-comers that I think are good are Kieran Flanagan, who's the, I think, like SVP of marketing at HubSpot. His stuff's awesome. A classic. Dave Gearhart, who started Exit 5 and then originally was the CMO over at Drift. I think his stuff's fantastic. And of course, selfishly, I'm going to plug myself and say that Maximus Greenwald, not Max Greenwald, Maximus Greenwald, which is my LinkedIn ego at Play, is writing a lot of stuff about sales and marketing, really what I'm learning as a founder. And so if you're an early stage go-to-market team and go-to-market leader and you want to see sales and marketing through my eyes as I come in pretty naive as a product person, as an engineer, hopefully there's some good nuggets in there for you to evolve your motion.
Love it. Great stuff. And, you know, you hit on the people who inspire you too there. So we typically ask those separate. You could double up on folks, or if there's anyone else, who inspires you the most in B2B?
Ooh, I'm going to have to pull in some of my investors for this. I actually think that even like non-founders should be following investors, mostly because I don't know what these suckers do all day. I mean, of course, they deploy capital, but like they love researching and talking to folks, and they get a really good, horizontal view of businesses. And so the stuff they're putting out about how people are using AI agents and, how they're using, various tools and tech stacks and the way the markets are shifting, I just think is great to kind of understand. So the two people that I'd shout out there, one would be Hunter Walk, who is the investor at Homebrew. All of his stuff's fantastic. And the second would be Finn Murphy, who is the GP at Nebular VC. He puts out really thoughtful content around just sort of investing and the state of founders and how founders should speak up more for themselves.
Perfect. And then I'm going to hit you with the Maximus here to better brand it, because I think I know where you're going. Where can folks get in touch with you after the podcast?
So I'm only on LinkedIn. My name is Maximus Greenwald on LinkedIn. And the reason that is true, and I'll tell you a secret that I don't tell many people, but I know it's going to be blasted everywhere, is I ran an email campaign, Max Greenwald versus Maximus Greenwald, and I had a 19% higher reply rate on cold emails from the word Maximus. It's longer, it's weirder, it's more purple cow like we were talking about before. And so people can find me on LinkedIn there.
Love that. I will ask your permission after we hit record, but that would be a great social clip to pull out. So we'll talk about that after
you
we
can use
hit
that.
the
It's
summit.
okay.
All right, sweet. Well, thanks so much, Maximus. I'm only going to say Maximus. 19% better conversation with me if I say Maximus. I'm going to use that same stat. But thanks so much for joining us today. You crushed it.
Thanks, man. Chris. See ya.